Hi, everyone. Welcome to my presentation. My name is Jen Park, and I am from Ramsey Catskill Library System. And I'm going to be speaking today about something that I went through with my community over the course of several months. It began in August 2018. And so you'll see those dates in there. This is a fairly short presentation with a good amount of work is going to be covered during this time frame because this took place over so many months. So to condense it all into a short time span, if you have any questions, any concerns about what's going on in school libraries in your town, I may always be reached at my contact information, which I'll go through at the end of this presentation. So thank you. So advocating for school libraries in your town. So I said my name is Jen Park. I am a parent to Blake and Bruce. This is Blake. At the time that we were up against this issue with regulating checkouts in that, well, I'll get to that. So Blake was in, this was 2018, so he was in second grade. So that's him in all his glory. And this is Brucey. Bruce was not in the public school setting yet. He was still in daycare, but of course, any decision that comes to them is going to be impactful as it relates to them and books in their school libraries. And I am the Community Engagement and Talent Development Specialist at Ramsey Catskill Library System. And I will say this took place, I live in New Jersey, this took place in Mahwah, New Jersey. And so what happened was I am the volunteer coordinator for the elementary school library. And so when it was in August, before school began, August 2018, I emailed the librarian and I said, hey, I just wanted to know, what's your schedule for the coming year so that I can coordinate parent volunteers to work with you in the library. This is something that's been done for years and years. This is nothing new. The parents would volunteer during each library session, and they would help the children check out books or find materials, basically anything to assist the librarian as they are able. And so the children would check out books each week. This is an elementary school they had 409 students. And so the kids would go to the library every week. They would have a lesson, and then they would have, I would say, about 10 minutes to check out some books. And the number of books that they were allowed to check out was dependent upon their grade level. So kindergartners were allowed to check out one book each week. And then, like second grade, they were allowed to check out 2 books, and third grade was allowed to check out 3 books. And I will let you know, in my town, there are 3 K through 3rd elementary school. So I was really working with a K through 3rd school. And then on top of that, there's a 4-5 school in which everyone attends. So my son Blake was a student at one of the K through 3 schools. And so the librarian responded with this, that this was their new current book checkout schedule. Now remember, I stated that every week children were allowed to check out items. And then she sent me this. And you can see that now kindergarten could only check out books every other week. First grade could check out books every other week. Second and third are the same. And then grades 4 and 5, this was greatly concerning to me. And I will say, so I was not at RCLS when this occurred. I was an academic librarian at Mount St. Mary College. And so I've been working with college students, and I knew, how, I knew what our checkout statistics were. I knew how they would engage with the librarians. And I felt that backing off against the ability to check out items every week was actually a real issue. And I'm sure as other librarians, everyone I would imagine most of you would agree with me. And if not, that's a great conversation that we could have another time. But in grades 4 and 5, that was greatly concerning every 3 weeks. So what happened? I had to bring this up to other parents. I was finding in conversing with my friends that they actually did not realize this. I mean, I didn't realize this. I only knew because I was in contact with the librarian. And when I said to the librarian, and remember, I had a good relationship with her, I think this is horrific. And she said, I respect your opinion. So it was clear that the librarian did not want to address the issue. And I would imagine that it's because she was not tenured. She was not a full-time librarian. So when educators are not tenured, I would hate to say that there's that opportunity for them to be retaliated against if they bring up issues, but that can sometimes occur. So I went to an HSO meeting. An HSO meeting is equivalent to a PTA. It stands for Homeschool Organization. And I asked the principals were in attendance, principal and vice principal, what was happening. And they didn't say anything. And I asked the other parents there, did you know about this? And they didn't know about it. And so the executive board, a member of the executive board of the HSO said to me, I think you should bring this up at the Board of Ed meeting. And so you can see here that I posted on the HSO page. Now, and I will say my post had to be allowed, not just anyone can post. So the president of the Board of Ed did allow me to post on the HSO page, which you would think would be a given, but in fact, that's not always the case. So I was very fortunate that, that she allowed me to do this. So I really took to social media and to see, what people knew, how they felt about it. And I received this response. Dawn gave me permission to use her name. She is a school librarian not in the Mahwah School District. She was a librarian at another district. And you can see, actually, she was not allowed to post on her PTA's page. Her post wasn't approved. And so Dawn and I really began to work together. I did not know Dawn. Since then, we've become fairly good friends, as you can imagine. And from there, I wrote an email. We attended the Board of Ed meeting, and we were not met with much of a response. And so I wrote an email to Sue DeVito, who's no longer at the district, and just basically said, this is an appalling rule. Sue was the supervisor for the librarians, or I should say Ms. DeVito is the supervisor for the librarians, and she did not have a library background, and that's fine, but I wanted to explain to her that as an academic librarian, I found this to be extremely concerning. And I CC'd pretty much everyone on the email, our superintendent, the assistant superintendent, as well as the principal of the school. Throughout this time period, I was extremely mindful of the hierarchy in which information and conversation needs to occur. So if you are ever in a situation in which you do need to advocate for your school libraries or truly any issue, one of the things I have learned is that schools are very focused on hierarchical information. So you always start with the direct supervisor, which in this case was the librarian. And then you go to the principal, which is what I had done at the HSO meeting. And then you have the ability to bring it higher up. So that is something, that they want to ensure occurs. Otherwise, everyone would just bring things to the superintendents. And so I did not get a great response from that email I had sent to Ms. DeVito. We had a meeting, and within that meeting, the director of curriculum was present. And when it was Dawn Zieg, the school librarian, myself, Ms. DeVito, the director of curriculum, as well as the principal. And at the end of the meeting, which it was quite clear we had gotten nowhere, even after we provided statistics and information and asking, why is this happening? Why is this happening? The director of curriculum said, well, we're gonna have to agree to disagree. And that's not an answer. And so I just said to him, well, I don't agree to disagree. So we'll just see where this goes. And so I began an email list. I started texting friends and seeing who would be interested. And I will say, I don't know a whole lot of people in town. We'd been living in Mahwah since the end of 2015. So I was still meeting people. We'd only been here for about 3 years. And so this was extremely concerning. And so I built basically an email group. We met at my house to have in-person discussions, and we formulated what we can possibly do. Here we have an email. Sorry, this is a bit out of order. I basically want to showcase that contact with your community is key, right? We didn't get the response after going to the direct supervisor, the principal, the HSO, the board of ed, the superintendents, the director of curriculum. So now it was time to organize and come together. And to do that, we really needed heavy communication. So we needed to meet in person. So we met at my house. I told parents, you are welcome to bring your children to my house. That is fine, because we all, when you're working with parents, childcare is an issue. And so I wanted there to be no barrier for anyone and everyone to become involved. And we met and we determined, whose strengths were within what. See at the bottom, I said, we'll talk about strengths and weaknesses. So one of my strengths was gathering information, peer-reviewed articles relating to this, reaching out to the professional organizations. In this case, it was the New Jersey Library Association and JASL, which is the New Jersey Association of School Librarians. Dawn reached out to ALA. So we really focused on who could do what. We had a parent who was great with websites, and he created a website for us so that we can curate the information. And Facebook is okay, but a website is so much stronger because it has its own standing URL. And so we really tried to do this call to action, right? We need more parents. We need a larger turnout. Would someone's child be willing to say a few words? Because we were attending the Board of Ed meetings. We needed to be there. We needed to show up in groups, in strong groups, and really speak our minds, provide those personal issues that were coming from children not having books each week. And in the course of this, I will say we found out that instead of letting the children use those 10 minutes to check out books, the librarians had been instructed to really focus every other week, so weeks that they couldn't check out books, to only focus on technology. So that meant the kindergartners, and my son was going to be a kindergartner, would be learning to type in a Word document. And I'm not making this up. It blows my mind even now that he was to sit in front of a computer, a 5-year-old, and learn how to write within a Word document rather than choose his own books. I kept up with Facebook. That's another avenue. You know, it's great to send emails out to people you know, but you don't know who's also interested in this information. And so Facebook was the way to go. ALA responded, and they provided us with a letter. They provided us with a letter as well as several conference calls in order to instruct us how to organize further. So we were able to get a letter from ALA, and that was huge. NJLA gave us a letter as well. Again, they were so supportive, and I know that we're in New York, so I would reckon that NYLA would be just as supportive if something were to happen and you needed a letter. And then we have NJSL right there. They provided us with a letter as well. Something you should know about these letters: if they are read during a Board of Ed meeting, they become, it becomes public property, essentially. So once a letter is read, it's entered into public record. And so it was so important to us that as a group, we organized and we attended the Board of Ed meetings with these letters. And we were even further fortunate that while we weren't able to have a representative from ALA present, we did have representation from NJLA and NJSL, and they were able to read the letters themselves. And that was just so powerful. It was powerful for the community because it showed that this was a real issue and they needed to pay attention to it. It was a really big deal. But we were still kind of stuck. Even though we had these letters, nothing happened. We had organized, so a Board of Ed meeting, if you've never attended before, there's a time in which the public is allowed to speak. And so when that time came, several of us would stand up at once and line up right in front of the microphone and be prepared. And still, we were not getting anywhere. And it became clear that it was the administration who was making this new issue occur, that they were the ones who were telling the librarians to not allow children to check out the books. And I'm not even kidding. A child tried to check out a book when it was not their book checkout week, and they were told no. And I can't even imagine if that practice kept up, how that would filter through to them being in college and even beyond college. So I was stuck. And when you're stuck, what do you do? Sometimes you take to social media. And so I was just at a loss, so I said, does anyone have a contact at news stations or local newspapers? Now, I will say, before I reached this point of basically making this ask to anyone and everyone in my friends group, we had tried to write op-ed pieces and get people from the media community interested in covering our story, and it was not happening. I think the issue is quite serious. I suppose that not everybody feels the same way that I do. So we were just stonewalled. We didn't have anything. And like I said before, I mean, you don't know who knows who, right? And so I had a friend from high school call me and say, hey, I saw your post. I've been following everything along as you've been posting on Facebook. I know someone who knows someone who knows someone. And I said, okay. And so So my friend said, send me something. So we sent along an op-ed piece that we had written that hadn't gone anywhere. And suddenly things started to happen. The Patch picked up the story, which is the town newspaper, and it still wasn't really getting so much traction though. I mean, this was like the only thing that we could get published. And even this was pulling teeth. I wasn't seeing much traction elsewhere, but then something happened.
Just for a second, imagine a library. You can only check out books 2 times a month. That's it. That's exactly what's happening in one New Jersey school district, and it has kids and parents in an uproar. News 4's Roseanne Coletti talked with them.
Something not found in the backpacks of students at George Washington Elementary in Mahwah. A freshly checked out book from the school library. So when did you check that book out?
I checked it out a couple of last Thursdays ago.
The students can only take out books every other week. The same holds for the Lenape Meadows School and Betsy Ross. And at Joyce Kilmer Elementary, it's once every 3 weeks. Concerned parents are questioning the wisdom of such a restrictive new policy regarding access to books.
It's an unprecedented measure among school libraries. We're concerned about what this means for the future of libraries and what it's doing to our children's literacy and education.
They worry the district is emphasizing computer and technology-based learning at the expense of reading. This parent teaches electronic arts and engineering at nearby Ramapo College.
If you have to take books out of children's hands in order to approach technology, you're doing it wrong.
The New Jersey Library Association agrees with that and sent a letter to the district stating, "We believe such a rule is extremely detrimental to the educational experience of the students."
They're losing the ability to browse through the stacks and find items of interest. They're losing the ability to engage with the librarians and further their knowledge about the collection and what's available out there.
The Mahwah district tells us its book circulation practices exist throughout Bergen County, and that the district's investment in literature and literacy is not solely housed in the library or demonstrated through book circulation. The parent pushback to the school policy expected to come up at a school board meeting on Wednesday night. I'm Roseanne Coletti in Mahwah, News 4 New York.
So you can see, like, suddenly we had interest, right? And that was a really big deal. Once NBC4 picked up the story, it really took off. And so we can see, you know, Mahwah parents prepared to pack meetings. School Library Journal picked up the story. Another newspaper picked up the story, Mahwah Ramsey Daily Voice, and the NCAC also picked up the story. And it went even further. So now I must back it up and say, we didn't jump to the media, right? We really tried every avenue before getting here. We really tried to work with the administration. They were not having it though. So I actually had a parent call me and say, you need to back off, the superintendent is seething. And I said, that's okay, she makes enough money to be seething. We have given plenty of time for them to change their decision. We've met with them over and over through Board of Ed meetings. I mean, it's not like they don't know who we are. They have our contact information. We're parents in the district. And there truly was a great rally from the community. They, you know, and I'll say they rallied for a couple of reasons. One, there's bad publicity, right? And so a couple were concerned about property taxes and home values and such. But for the most part, it was that they were appalled that students were not allowed to check out books. And one of the questions I get all the time is that at the end of this, did you win? And unfortunately, there's no such thing as winning, right? When it comes to advocacy, it's ongoing, it's forever. But I will say that this happened. there was a change, and that's a really big deal. It's not perfect. It's not what we want it to be, where children can go to the library every week with their classes and check items out. But I will say that now they're allowed, if it's not book checkout week, they can visit the library during a specials period and check out a book. So they are not limited as much as they were. And I have had parents say that this is a big deal, right? There was a change, something changed, and that doesn't happen often. In addition to that change, this is a picture of our librarian being recognized at a Board of Ed meeting. And so you can see in the top right, it's your love of literacy, and, students spoke highly of her in videos, and here they are, they're lined up to give her flowers. These were the only students. There were 9 teachers, 9 educators recognized that evening. And this was the only educator with a group of students around her. And that was a big deal. There was also a personnel change, whereas the school librarian, who was 0.8, was now made a full-time employee. So my advice to you, you may not know what the checkout practices are of your school libraries, and that may be something for you to learn, because you'd be surprised. Unfortunately, not always in a good way that you'd be surprised. You should also get to know your Board of Ed. Who are they? What are the rules that they're determining for the future of the children in your town? If you do need to take on or raise concerns, this was entirely time consuming. Roseanne Coletti, who's the NBC reporter, that was a phone call made in the morning, and we were meeting with her, that early afternoon. That was a big deal. So there needed to be some flexibility for scheduling. You'll be frustrated. Frustrations do occur, but it never hurts to ask for assistance. Ask for assistance from the professional community. Call other librarians who have been up against the same issue. Speak with the greater library community. The Facebook groups was a great resource as well. Do not be afraid to speak out. Parents were so concerned retaliation against their children that could occur. No, feel free to speak out. If there's media involvement, remember that comes at the end. Don't jump to it. And you're gonna have to do a lot of the work yourself, writing op-ed pieces. And if you need to know how to speak at a Board of Ed meeting, there is a supporting document that is on the LibGuide for CennyCon. So with that, I know it was a quick turnaround. I'm happy to answer any questions. And if not, you can always email me. That's fine. Yeah, and so honestly though, if anyone has any questions, any frustrations, you don't know where to start, you don't know where to go with it, having been through it, and I'll say that this process was August 2018 through February 2019. So it was 6 months. It was 6 really, really intense months. Right now, the their school is doing their 5-year plan. And of course, I'm right there at all the meetings, advocating for full-time librarians and for library aides to be reinstated, because suddenly we don't have so many library aides anymore. So yeah, so if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. Mm-hmm. And thank you to Southeastern for hosting and being amazing throughout this whole process.